Okay, so we are in module 5. We're in module 5 now. So this right here, I'm going to uncollapse it so I can talk about the first couple of things you're going to see in it. It looks a little bit different because we have this first one right here. TI-84 Chromebook app, that is going to be your application that you guys can actually go to it. And I don't have a Chromebook, so I actually can't see this, but you can go to the chrome.google.com and you can actually grab that applet or the app. Actually, you can download it, and when you download that app, it actually acts as a TI-84. We are going to be using our TI-84s this unit, so that is something that you want to do first and foremost in this chapter is go through and get the Chromebook app for TI-84. You don't even have to buy one, which is really nice. The other app that we're going to use, this Staplet that we've been using, I put it up here because it is going to be something that we use the entire year. And so I'm going to keep on going back to this. You can always grab the Staplet here. If I were you, I would actually bookmark that Staplet because we're going to be using it a lot, especially in this chapter. You're not going to want to do these graphs by hand. You're going to want to do them in either your TI-84 applet or inside the Staplet. And you're going to want to take a picture to insert those into the homework. So you've got your assignment here, you've got your calendar, but I'm going to actually get into lesson 1. I'm going to open it even further. I'm going to open the applet. Whoops, I'm sorry, I need to click on that to be able to see it. So here is the lesson. I'm going to do the recording right now and upload that, but next I have this explore problem. I'm going to talk about what we see here after I actually go through the notes. So here are the notes for this unit. I'm going to talk about mainly the different vocab you're going to see moving forward. So today we're going to talk about scatter plots. I want you guys to understand that what a scatter plot is, and I'm going to pop back over here just so that we can see the, whoops, here it is, so that we can see the actual graph here. A scatter plot has both quantitative variables on the X and Y. We're actually going to be measuring 2 different variables on people. So when we had histograms, we were only measuring one thing, and then we had the frequency or number of people. These are not frequency. This is when I am actually going to be measuring 2 different variables against each other. So if I wanted to gather data from you guys here, I wouldn't be asking you, how many hours did you sleep last night? That is going to be a histogram. That's one variable. That does not make a scatter plot. To make a scatter plot, I would have to say, I think that there is an association by the number of hours that students sleep, okay, number of hours that they sleep versus their GPA. I think the students with more hours of sleep are going to have higher GPAs. That's just a correlation. I'm obviously just throwing that out there. But what I would need to collect from you are 2 different variables. I would need your number of hours slept, and then I would need your GPA on this. So that shows you what a scatter plot does and the differences. With that being said, let's look at the notes. We are going to be talking about variation in data. This is the chapter where if you in Algebra 2, or I guess, did you guys take IM? I can't remember, but in Algebra 2 or integrated math, you guys would have experienced the idea of a least squares regression line. That's kind of where we're going in this chapter. But you can see that I talk about having 2 variables. We're going to be measuring a relationship between 2 variables. And just so you know, we are going to talk about the influencers behind the scene in some of these variables. We're going to be studying relationships to see if when I measure these 2 variables, if they form like a linear response. That's primarily what we're going to be looking at. There will be, so this is very, very important. We're going to have what's called an independent variable and a dependent. One of the most important things is to actually recognize the difference between these 2 things. Which one is the explanatory? That will always go on your explanatory x-axis. Okay, your explanatory always goes on your x-axis, and whatever is responding is your response variable that will always go on your y-axis. That will make a huge difference moving forward. So make sure that you understand that we have to first identify explanatory, then a response variable before we graph. You can see down here, I'm kind of jumping down to this visual. I have explanatory always goes on the x, and then our response will always go on the y. There's a example here that I would have gone through if we were in class, and if you're in my Zoom meeting, you definitely would have heard about this. But if I have this study where they're trying to figure out what does alcohol do to your body temperature. So in this one, they would be measuring, and this would be done on adults, clearly, not teenagers, but the explanatory variable would be the amount of alcohol. So like in this study, I think there were some of the adults who were having one beverage, then two, then three, then four. They were seeing if the amount of alcohol that was in the bloodstream caused a temperature drop. Okay, because it's a depressant, it does cause a temperature drop. So the explanatory variable is the amount of alcohol, because we're trying to figure out, does that cause a change in body temperature? The response would be body temperature. If you graphed it the other way, it would actually be incorrect. So you have to do explanatory. What is explaining the response? Okay. Then down here, what we're going to look at, we're going to today just look and see, after we get this pattern of points, we're going to talk about 3 different things when I ask you to describe it or interpret it. When we have one variable statistics, when I say those words, what I mean is I want you to cuss. Identify the center, the unusual features, the shape, the spread. That doesn't really make any sense at all for 2 variables. Instead, we're going to talk about an association that has 3 different things. The form, we're going to primarily focus on linear. Most of the graphs that we see this chapter are going to be linear. And then we say whether they are in a positive or negative direction and whether they're weak or strong. Sometimes I'll use moderate as well to kind of be that middle line. But that is how we're going to talk about them. Quick mention here that sometimes we will see categorical variables added to them. Like if I wanted to know, do males and females respond differently to this? I might, in my scatter plot, make females a star and males a dot. Okay, so that way I can see the differences between males and females to see if they respond, or their body temperature responds differently to the alcohol. So when I come back over to this, we have a scatter plot right here. And in this one, when I look at it, so it means, so this one is talking about a number of rubber bands and the lowest point that a Barbie's head gets. We're going to refer to this a couple times in this, but it was basically an experiment that could be done where when you add, so you put a Barbie up to a meter stick, it looks like at 0 rubber bands, the Barbie is measuring 30 centimeters down that meter stick. So then the students would tie a rubber band, like when it's 1 rubber band, and then they drape the rubber band from the top of the meter stick and see how far down now her head is, because they were hanging her from her feet, and her head would reach 35 centimeters. So you can see that it's going further and further down this meter stick. So that was the experiment that was done. And what we're looking at is a association between those 2 things. What I can say about this data pretty definitively is that as you increase the number of rubber bands that you add to the bottom of this Barbie's feet, the lowest point of her head goes up. So we always talk about these graphs as X increases, Y in this case is also increasing. As X increases, as the number of rubber bands increase, so does the lowest point of her head. Okay. So that's the first thing that we do when we talk about scatter plots. The other thing that you'll see down here is I'll ask you to describe what you see here. Like what does I'm going to use the word correlation a little early because we talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, but correlation, what's the correlation here? We always say 3 words. This is definitely, we talk about strength, direction, and then we throw linear in there, okay? Or pattern for that one. In this one, this is a very strong, positive, because it's going up, it's sloping up, not down, and linear association. Had it gone the other way, what I would know is that as I increase the number of rubber bands, the lowest point gets smaller. That was if it was going the other way. Okay, that would be a negative association, so strong negative linear. So those are the 3 words that we're going to use. That's all for this. So go ahead and try some of the homework. And if you have any questions, I have the homework video linked below.